Pippi Power, post-rain delay. So I already posted this morning when it was raining and we tried to take Pip out for a walk and share her strengths. And the rain stopped, it cleared up pretty much 5 or 10 minutes after posting. So we're going to go through and discuss what happened in the walk because, wow, what insights we got from the actual walk. I have to keep reminding myself the 7-day challenge and linking them to my strengths is driven by Pippi Power and our walks each day. So post rain delay, or before we went for a walk, we decided to go to the park. It was too wet, so we went and played with the ball in the garage. And I tried to identify where the woo was, which I came up with yesterday, imagining what her strengths were. And today's challenge is 3 levels of awareness. And that's bringing what you know you don't know into your conscious competence, where you will know it and you can then develop that skill. And it's also understanding that you don't know everything and there's a lot of stuff you know you don't know. You don't know you don't know. And that's probably a majority of the knowledge out in the world. We can only contain so much information. And then we want to shift that into knowledge we know we don't know and then get it back to conscious competence. Now, what came to mind today was a 4th level. It's called unconscious competence. Unconscious competence. So what that means is when you develop a skill and then you just do it as such a habit that you're unconsciously aware of doing it. And this shifts between conscious competence and unconscious competence. Consider driving a car. Have you ever found those times when you take off for your journey and you get there and you go, wow, I don't even remember driving here and don't remember turning the corner? It's a scary thought if you're not really paying attention, but we can be conditioned to unconscious competence. Now, in the strengths world, we're trained and coached on strengths to not try and predict what other people have. There's pros and cons to it, and sometimes it can be fun for strengths coaches to try and guess what someone else's strengths might be. And I started thinking about, what am I trying to achieve here with Pippi Power and her being the world's first strengths coach dog or strengths coach puppy? And I thought, maybe this is an opportunity to explore all 34 strengths. So obviously, I see the world through my top 7 strengths, and I go through them each day with my daily challenge. But I don't really discuss too much about the other, 27 strengths. Unless I'm talking to another strengths coach or a client or something like that. So I thought maybe there's a better idea rather than just honing in on 3 strengths for Pippi, who I think has a lot of woo, exploring some other strengths. So I thought I'm just going to let that sit and walk with her and see what comes to mind. Because obviously she can't talk, so she can't tell me what strengths she's got. I can only sort of try and imagine what might be there from a strengths perspective in a puppy. So the sun cleared up. We went to the top of the drive and I thought, we've been to the park. You didn't want to be there. So let's just go straight on our walk as we do rather than stop at the park for you to do your business and then go for our walk. Funnily enough, she stopped dead and just stared at me. And I went, okay, here's a moment. Here's a moment to delve deep into my strengths toolkit. What can I come up with? And what I found was a strength called deliberative. Now, this word has slightly different forms, and depending on how you see the strength and how that strength is built into you, it has both pros and cons, okay? So deliberative is someone who is known as a deep thinker. They execute through deep thought, right? And they look at all the risk parameters, they make up decisions, they see problems, they solve those problems, and they identify the best path by deliberating over making a decision. They are very deliberate when they make up their mind and they get it done. Does that make sense? So they deliberate and then they are very deliberate. Same word spelt differently, pronounced differently, and have slightly different nuanced meanings. And I saw Pippi looking back at me going, wow, that could be deliberative. That's a great opportunity to share that strength on Pippi Power and how Pippi introduced deliberative to me in a slightly different form. Now, normally I would think about just focusing on one strength to the day, but today's maximizer, so I've got to maximize this somehow, and I'm going to share with you how I identified another strength. Now, I often talk about Pippi Power and how she's really curious, and most dogs are. They like sniffing things, good things like flowers, and not so good things like, backsides of other puppies. Very true. And they'll sniff and they'll search and they'll explore and they'll go all over the place. What strength comes to mind? So, there's a strength called learner. Now, obviously, we all know that learning is important. We learn certain things throughout our life. But a strength for learner, someone who is high in the strength of learner, generally loves the journey, loves the learning process, loves going through the motion of learning new things. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they enjoy the destination. Some do, a lot do, because obviously the other strengths play around with it, and destination's important, and where you're out going and where you're going to head and all that sort of stuff. But predominantly, in my experience, through my lens and my strengths, I find learner loves the journey. How do I know this? Because I speak to other learners. How do I also know this? My learner comes in at number 9, I'm pretty sure. So it's still in my top 10. It's reasonably high. I do enjoy the journey, but generally only when it comes through maximised connectedness, which are my top 2. So it's making the world a better place to connect people to their strengths. So that's how I learn. And again, I'm not preaching on I am the expert in learner, because it is number 9. So I thought this quite early on in the journey, and funnily enough, with the rain, I thought we might take a different route. We end up in the same destination, but we went around the island instead of going across the bridge over to the council park and enjoying that. And that's not a completely different route. It's the old route I used to take, and more often than not, I take it as a winter walk because it gets a bit cooler and it's a longer distance. I burn more energy, blah, blah, blah. And I thought that's fitting. The weather's a bit under the weather, so why not take the winter walk? And I came up with this concept of learner for Pippi. And how could she coach me on it? And what I found interesting is when I really focused on the fact of how much she was enjoying the journey, and it was very quiet because it was just been raining, so we didn't really run into any people, and especially no other dogs. Lo and behold, we're coming close to the end, and another dog comes around the corner with their owner. And a lot bigger, probably 3 times Pip's size. And I thought, okay, let's see where this goes. What's she going to do with her learner? And of course, she sort of gets curious, so a bit of deliberative might come in as well. She's a bit hesitant because this is a bigger dog. She wants to iron out all the risk and check out what's going on, but she's still very curious. She still wants to learn. And often when she does this, she'll sit. So if you team learner with deliberative, they want to learn this new situation, but they're just not quite sure yet. And when they make that decision, they'll go for it. So she waited for this dog to come over and approach, and she was very apprehensive. She was staring at her, keeping very close eye contact. She was really curious as to what this dog was going to do. Was this dog friendly? Was this dog unfriendly? She couldn't quite tell. Obviously, the fact that the dog was on a loose lead and just standing there trying to get a sniff and do all that sort of thing, Pip still wasn't unsure. So she sort of stepped back and waited. And the owner realised that Pip wasn't too into it. So she just pulled the dog away and the dog started to walk away. Now, this is where it gets interesting. It didn't stop Pip going for a sniff, because lo and behold, she could walk up behind this dog and sniff from behind. So the learner was still there. She was still curious. She still wanted that sniff. So that's Pippi Power for today. That's how she coached me back into conscious competence and realizing my unconscious competence of trying to label strengths to something in the hope that I think I see what I'm seeing. So I've shifted that slightly. So instead of trying to pinpoint a strength that Pippi might have, I'm going to look for particular behaviours in Pippi and see how she can coach that behaviour as a strength, or share that strength with me for me to identify it and grow my knowledge, grow my conscious competence, master that skill. Does that make sense? Let me know what you think. Pippi Power is here to stay. She is the world's first strength coach puppy. I hope you like it. Comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and how your puppy influences your strengths. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.